and to their sheer horror, the victim was still alive. The crews would immediately... All the victims in this accident survived with no life-threatening injuries.
No,
The man responsible was...
I don't believe this. Hi, I'm coming back from a long day and I want to watch some YouTube videos. So let's do that. Most painful car accident deaths ever by a talking hat.
The donut incident. It was just another midday drive for this 28-year-old man in Ohio.
Yikes.
The sky was clear, the roads were stretched out like any other time,
28 is
and for
kinda
him,
crazy.
his morning had officially started. The only thing left for him to do was to get some breakfast, so he'd stop by a store to grab some donuts and coffee before taking off for work. And just like that, his morning was entirely complete.
Not gonna lie, I thought this was called the donut incident because he got
The man was sipping a coffee in one hand and biting a donut in the other. For him,
What hands were
things
on the
really
wheel?
couldn't get any better than this.
What hands were on the
But
wheel?
somewhere between the first sip and the next bite, everything went sideways.
Yeah.
Literally.
You know what would make this day better? Some music. Hey Siri, play some Diddy.
Now playing Demi Lovato.
What? No. I said play Diddy, like, you know, Puff Daddy?
Now
No.
playing Yeet.
I'll just do it myself.
While eating his donut, it'd slip out of his hands and knock over his coffee.
Oh. Hot coffee.
In a panic to stop the spilling, he quickly reached for the beverage to steady it.
Hot
just like
coffee
that,
on the meat is
in a
kind
split
of.
second, his car veered
Yikes.
left to the opposite lane of traffic.
Oh.
I forgot to mention that this was all occurring in the middle of the highway, on an extremely busy Wednesday morning. And unfortunately, at 50 to 60 miles per hour, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
His vehicle cut across the lane and slammed head-on into two westbound cars, completely flattening one in the process. The impact was violent enough to leave three vehicles completely mangled and scatter their debris across the field of the road like an explosion. Witnesses said it was chaos. One driver was trapped inside their vehicle with crushed metal pinning them in place, while first responders worked frantically to cut them free. As for the flattened car, it sat in the ditch with its airbags blown out, windshield shattered, and frame completely crushed. When paramedics arrived at the scene, they worked desperately to extract the victims from the wreckage. They would even try to bring out the body in the flattened vehicle, and to their sheer horror, the victim was still alive. The crews would immediately transfer both individuals to the University Hospital's Geauga Medical Center, while a third refused further treatment. To everyone's total shock, all the victims in this accident survived with no life-threatening injuries.
No,
The
bro.
man responsible was...
I don't believe this. I don't believe that. There's no way they got away unscathed.
quickly identified and questioned. His rambunctious craving for donuts and coffee on the highway had turned a quiet Ohio road into a disaster scene. Police instantly cited him on the spot. Sometimes it's not speed or weather or a drunk driver that causes the crash. Sometimes
Can't say-
it can simply just be a donut, so don't drive while distracted. 35.
Yeah.
Honestly, this one was a little too depressing, so I decided to take it out. Instead, for this incident, you can just look at this cute rabbit for a bit. Hell Train. It was the
You
evening
didn't even
rush
put
on
it-
February 3rd, 2015 in Valhalla, New York. Commuters
That's
boarded the
New
Metro North train that was headed for the suburbs
That's
after
funny.
a long day in Manhattan.
That's also
At the same time, a 49-year-old mother from Edgemont was behind the wheel of her Mercedes SUV. She had just left work and was cutting through unfamiliar backroads due to an earlier accident on the highway. She approached the Commerce Street crossing, a dangerous grade-level track where warning lights flashed and gates descended. But instead of stopping, as you might have already guessed, her SUV ended up in the worst place possible,
on the
the
tracks.
tracks.
Yeah.
Like any other normal person, you'd think that she would reverse her car out of harm's way, right?
Could she not?
Well, you'd be wrong. Instead, she drove forward, accidentally stopping on the rails as the crossing gate came down behind her, pinning her vehicle into
Oh.
one place. She panicked quickly trying to find an escape, but without a second to react, headlights pierced the dark. The Metro North train, carrying hundreds of passengers, slammed into her SUV with catastrophic force.
Windows.
The impact drove the 5,000-pound vehicle nearly 1,000 feet up the tracks before ripping it apart.
You had to
That's
blur
only the
your
beginning of
own
what made
picture.
this situation so terrible. When the train impacted her car, the rails snapped off the ground and speared through her SUV, right into the train's passengers. These rails would shoot up from the floor and send fire and sparks exploding onto the passengers. The first carriage completely erupted into flames as metal debris tore through windows and seats like shrapnel. At the rear of the train, riders only felt a slight bump, but up at the front, it was a pure nightmare. Smoke filled the cars, people screamed, and sections of rail shot through the cabin like burning javelins. People desperately clawed at jammed doors, but the heat was unbearable and too suffocating. The smell
I ain't gonna lie. I don't think I should have watched this.
of burning seats, fuel, and flesh is all that survivors could remember when trying to escape. The scene was described as literal hell on a train. When the fire finally died down, 6 people were gone and 15 others were severely injured.
Yeah.
The SUV was obliterated, and the train was left mangled and scarred by the flames. This remains the deadliest crash in Metro North Railroad's history, and the moral is as simple as it is brutal. When you're on the road, always be attentive and learn to react quickly.
Wait, so
Roads
like
are actually pretty boring, and
Her brakes, they just like, they either didn't work or she didn't use them or didn't use them in time to get off or not be on the track. Enormous yikes, brother.
honestly, they don't really have crazy things like this happening all the time, but in the rare case you end up in a situation like this, be prepared and always act fast.
Windows.
Guillotine. The stands were packed.
No.
Families, fans, and journalists gathered shoulder to shoulder, watching the 24 hours of Le Mans. Cars from Mercedes, Jaguar, and Ferrari screamed down the straightaways, pushing limits that the track itself had never been designed to handle. Then came lap 35. Mike Hawthorne darted toward the pits, braking hard in front of the Austin Healey driver. Macklin swerved to avoid him, but in doing so, he moved directly into the path of Pierre Levey, who was going at over 120 miles per hour. What happened next was unfortunately pure carnage. Levey's car struck Macklin's rear end and was launched into the air like a missile. The man's car literally started flying, and of course, it'd be aimed at nothing other than tightly packed crowds of bystanders enjoying their favorite cars racing on the track. The Mercedes would smash into the spectator in front of the grandstand, and on impact it would immediately disintegrate. The car's heaviest components like the engine block, suspension, and radiator tore free and hurled into the crowd with the force of artillery shells, obliterating dozens on impact. However, the worst part was the hood. It was sharp, silver, and launched out of the car the fastest, making it form a spinning motion like a saw blade.
This is something you'd see in Final Destination. Like, I'm pretty sure in the first movie something like this happened.
The hood would fly into the crowd and sever the heads of multiple spectators watching in the stands. Survivors would later describe this scene as the hood decapitating tightly jammed spectators like a guillotine. By the time the smoke cleared, at least 82 people were gone and hundreds more were injured. This event would later on become known as the 1955 Le Mans disaster, and it would remain the most catastrophic accident in racing history.
Yeah, that's
A
kind of
little
crazy.
fun fact about this event is that the organisers wouldn't allow the race to stop. They'd ensure that the drivers kept competing so that the venue didn't ensue into a mass panic and block medical responders from being able to enter in. This event would be so shocking to the world at the time that multiple countries across Europe banned motorsports altogether until safety standards could be improved. No matter how exciting or important something feels in the moment, it's never worth risking lives by ignoring safety. One bad decision can hurt not just you, but everyone around you. Don't speed, don't be distracted while driving, and always drive safely. With that being said, have a happy day.
I haven't started driving yet, but when I do start driving, I'm learning from these people. These people's mistakes are gonna make me better. Hello, it's me from a few months later, like 5 months later, because I think I recorded that in like January. I think that might have been the first video that I ever recorded on this computer. I'm editing this during my hiatus. Actually, I'll probably do shoutouts in the video after this one. If you're seeing this, I'm back. But this is going at the end of the video, so
Flex on my ex.